Okay, so
everyone went robotic.
hey everyone, hey everyone, welcome to Industry Inspire Series again. Today I'm with Tracy, Salman, and Omkar. So without any further ado, I'll just give this time introduction to Salman. Hey Salman.
Hey everyone, nice to meet all of you. And yeah, it's great to have all of you on today. We're having another episode with the Industry Inspire series. So we've got Omkar who will introduce everyone. But yeah, we have Tracy here. So she's worked with like university recruiting and stuff like that. So do enjoy this series. Whilst I can talk about my own experience and how it happened for me, getting an internship at Microsoft, but it's different from a recruiter's point of view. So to hear that perspective from the university recruitment side, I think is going to be very valuable and useful for all of you. So do pay close attention today, and I'll pass it over to Omkar. Thank you, everyone.
Sure, Salman, and thank you for starting the stream. And it's a great pleasure to have Tracy here with us today, and she's going to talk about her journey as a program manager for global talent acquisition excellence. And she's been associated with Microsoft for over 3 years now, and she has also worked for various companies. And now she's working with Microsoft, and it's like she's an experienced professional in information technology and talent acquisition. So it's a pleasure to have such a professional here with us to guide you people into the industry, and it's very like it's an honor to have her. And hi Tracy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. You talk so nicely. I'm so excited to meet who you're talking about. I'm like, is that me?
Yeah, it's you.
I'm just excited to join all of you. I think that you're doing amazing things. Students and anybody who's looking at different opportunities and experiences, I'm just excited to be amongst people who are doing great things. So thank you for inviting me.
That's awesome, Tracy, and it's really great. Like we all will be hearing to your journey for the next 30 minutes, and it is really great for the people who are watching this particular stream. I hope that they'll learn something out of it and they'll take away something out of it. So it's really a pleasure to have you here with us. We have Sundar, we have Salman here on MS Inspire, and I think that this session of yours will inspire the people who are watching it. So without wasting further time, let's just start on with your session. So let's get started.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to share, and I'm going to be really honest with you guys. This is a new experiment. I'm doing Sway for the first time as a presentation. So let's see how it goes. Let me move the Inspire. So Tracy's journey to excellence. So I'm Tracy Foster, as you mentioned, and you'll learn a little bit more about me as we go through our time together. I started it with this picture for a couple of reasons. One is, I love this picture. This is New York City, and that's a rainbow appearing. This was taken by my brother during the beginning of COVID, when all of New York City was locked down, and it was feeling somewhat overwhelming and tremendous. And he took this picture and he sent it to me. So I love it because I thought it's encouraging, and I thought it'd be a great backdrop for my session. So Tracy's journey to excellence. And I think before we talk, hold on, it's not centered correctly. But I think before we talk too much about like my journey, I think we need to understand what excellence is. And if we are just very technical, you'll find that I like to hold on, let me share this. Sorry, excuse me, technical difficulties. Let's look at what the dictionaries say. Excellence, the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. And that's from our wonderful Oxford dictionaries. And then the quality of being excellent, Merriam-Webster, something with which one excels, and that's American Heritage Dictionary. It's always good to look at what something means through the eyes of other people. In this case, it's dictionaries. I don't think dictionaries have eyes, but you get the point. It's good to know different ones. So I have one more definition that I came up with. Excellence is a journey that's ever emerging, it's growing, and it's relentlessly hopeful. And that's from the Dictionary of Tracy. So before we dive in really into excellence and what my journey looked like, I think we need to take a step back because I find it's easier to understand things when you look at the beginning. It gives context. Right. So here's little Tracy. Here's baby Tracy. 1971. That's me without hair. There's a quote that I really like, and I think it resonates, and it's been very useful for me. Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both. And that's really important because as I share my journey and what I've done, how I've ended up in excellence and how I've pursued excellence, we have to understand the society and what was going on around me, because all of that shapes me. And there are certain advantages that I have because of the society that I'm part of. So understanding where I emerged within our society will help you understand how I ended up at Microsoft as a program manager in excellence. But you wouldn't have known that looking at this little bald baby. So in 1971, Intel produced the first microprocessor. So as I was born, we had the birth of microprocessors as well. I'd like to say I'm one of those. I don't think I am exactly, but it's where it started. NPR, National Public Radio, is one of my favorite radio stations to listen to, and it had its first broadcast when I was born. My family, unfortunately, knows this about me. I love Disney. It's crazy, but I absolutely love Disney. And it appears that Walt Disney World opened in Florida, which was exactly where I was born as well. Now, if we go outside of the US, we look at Qatar, and Qatar celebrated independence. The first space station, the Soviet Union launched the first space station. UAE was established. And then back to America, Apollo 14 launched. So those were some of the things that were going on when I was born. That was what society looked like at that time. It's a little bit of context. And there's Tracy, the early years. As you see, I was making big moves on my skateboard. Very 70s. I had a fashion sense even back then. So everybody comes with a story, and that helps shape your destination. It helps shape your journey. So I was born in Florida because my family were captains from both sides. My parents met in South America when my father and grandfather were ship captains. They lived in Trinidad, and then they just took that journey straight up into Florida. This picture is in Kodiak, Alaska. So completely different part of the United States. We went from the south all the way up to Kodiak. The commonality there was the water. So we traveled a lot, and that's typical of people in seafaring communities. If I look at my background, I was Celtic in background. For years and years, generations and generations, we've been seafaring people, so we traveled a lot. It provided us the opportunity to live in different environments. So if you think of South America and Trinidad, and then you think of the United States in the South, it's very, very different than the United States and Alaska. One is very lush and green. It's very populated with like snakes and turtles and toads. And then we go up to Alaska, where it's green in a different way. It's very cold, and it's populated with things such as bears and fish and eagles. So I was able to live in a lot of different environments. And that also brought the opportunity to live in diverse communities. So as a young child, I was living in areas where there was a lot of diversities of culture. And that had a very strong impact on me. I'm not sure if it was because of where I lived or the time, but I really experienced a freedom to explore. I could go anywhere, and I went everywhere. I had a lot of independence, and some of the places I went worked out really good. We would decide to build huge forts, or we would gather whatever was growing in the forest and pretend we were a restaurant. Sometimes it worked out great, and sometimes it didn't work out so great. For instance, in Alaska, they have something called pushki, and people who are indigenous to that area can eat this. It's a wild green thing that grows out in the forest, and they can eat it without instance, no issues. But when people come to Alaska and they eat it, they end up having a reaction and they get this beautiful red rash. Well, that was an experiment that I did, and it didn't work so well. But what I did have and what did work well was my freedom to explore and that independence to really pursue and engage with things that I found interesting. It also allowed me to really develop an interest in learning and exploring and understanding other people's cultures, other people's environments, what works for them and what doesn't. Eventually, the 70s ended and we ended up in this town. I am not sure if any of you know this town, but this is Seattle in 1981. We've got the Space Needle there, and then we've got some older sporting facilities. That was called the King Dome, this little round thing. So this is where I ended up. When my journey brought me to Seattle, I was about 10 years old. So I had spent a lot of time exploring and playing and really developing that independence. When I came to Seattle, I was a little bit older and it shifted a bit. I was more interested in scholastics and academics at that point. Coming to Seattle, I lived in the Wallingford area, which is near Green Lake. It's also near the University of Washington. So I still had that freedom to explore where Seattle was and what Seattle was becoming, but it was a little bit more confined at that point. The University of Washington was very influential for me as a 10-year-old between the ages of 10 and 18. I was exposed to this wonderful academic environment. As a child, we were able to go into the libraries. We were able to explore all of the museums within it. It was very open to us, that campus. And so that provided a wonderful exposure to academia, as well as just igniting in me a desire to learn. I developed a strong love of libraries in Seattle, and that played out later on in my life. You'll see as we go along. During the 80s, early 80s as well, Microsoft started to become it started to make the news. Like, it was something that people talked about. And I heard about it as a child, as well as Boeing. And then there was something called Amazon.com. It was a vision, an idea. As well as these businesses and these learning institutions, we also started to feel a real emergence of artists. So from Pearl Jam, which was a grunge music, to Sir Mix-a-Lot, we started to have this surge of artistic expression in Seattle, which once again built on who I am as a person. I started to understand excellence as something that was associated to people, to businesses and artists. And during that time, from about 10 to 18, that desire to strive for excellence really became cemented within me. So that was important. And then we end up, you like the bangs? I know you guys like this. Here we are, it's the teen Tracy. So after I grew up and became a teenager and went to high school, I became very devoted to studies. I did a lot of extracurricular activities. I was involved in a lot of experimental, educational endeavors. And what I knew from all of my studies and from all of my observances was that if I wanted to achieve excellence, as I've seen in these people and in these businesses and in these academic institutions, that there were several things I needed to have. And I knew this as a fact. I knew that I needed to focus on my grades. I really had to have good grades and be able to present my academics in such a way that it would leverage an excellent education, or it would leverage opportunity. I knew that grades weren't enough, though, because there were a lot of smart people. So I know I needed to have some mini internships in high school, or where I had gone and helped the community. I needed to demonstrate that I wasn't just about academics, but I was a broader person. I really cared about other things. I knew I had to emulate those who achieved excellence. So I spent a lot of time in high school reading biographies, talking to people if I had the opportunity, going to different speeches, because back then there weren't these wonderful things like YouTube where we could stream easily and watch presentations. So I attended a lot of in-person events. I knew I would have to stay focused. And most importantly, if I wanted to go through and have my journey to excellence, I had to have a plan. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So I don't think I was alone in that. And that's exactly what I did. I was very deliberate, very strategic, very methodical. I developed a plan. But what happens when that journey doesn't go as planned? This is 30-year-old Tracy. And this Tracy, my plan didn't work. I didn't go immediately to college after school. I didn't. I thought I would, but instead, I made life decisions. I got married. I decided to put my husband through school. I worked multiple jobs in sales and service. But there's a very key distinction here. A lot of people work multiple jobs, but I worked these jobs at the same time. I would have 3 jobs at once so that I could accumulate money to pay for schooling for my husband. I started in sales. I was in real estate. And what I find was so useful in that position, I was an assistant. It didn't require a college degree. What it did require is that I would create the environment so that the realtor could go and sit at the table and finish the transaction. So I did all the behind the scenes work. I had to focus on the needs of the client. I had to focus on the impact that we would give them. I had to sell an idea. When you're selling real estate, you sell ideas, you sell opportunities. That was important to me because that was the foundation from where I entered the workforce. And from that point forward, I've always been focused on the candidate or the client or whoever it is that I'm trying to help. I want to make sure that I always understand what they're doing, what they need, where there's a gap, and where what I'm able to provide can fill that gap. That was in sales. I did service. And when I say service, I mean, I was a cleaner. I worked at a bakery, which was very difficult to work at a bakery with wonderful food all the time and not just consume the product. But I was service oriented. It was very long hours. There wasn't a lot of gratitude. Often you'll find that when people interact with service, people who serve them, they're not necessarily gracious. And yet I saw examples of people who were excellent at service, even though they weren't rewarded all of the time. So I worked all of these jobs in sales and services, and I got married and I got divorced. That wasn't in my plan. None of this was in my plan. I had kids. And when I say I had kids, people, I had kids. I have a total of 8 children. Now, I didn't have all of them by 30, but I had kids. Then I lost everything. And this is important. This is probably the thing that I'm the most grateful for if I look at my history outside of my children. But I lost everything. There was a moment where everything that I had accomplished and accumulated, I lost, and I had to start over. And let me talk a little bit about that. So in 2006, I was much older. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for some time, quite some time, and had quite a few kids at that point. But I experienced a domestic violence instance, and it was very severe. I don't like to say I'm a domestic violence survivor, and that's just me, because that's not how I look at it. I look at it as I'm a domestic violence defeater. When I lost everything, what I mean is that instance of domestic violence caused me to have to leave my home, leave my environment, leave everything that I had accomplished prior to that, including all of my job information, all of that, and I had to start all over again. If I was a 10-year-old living in Alaska who moved to Seattle as a teenager, who developed this plan of what success looked like, how to land in excellence, I never would have seen this. I never would have planned it. But the beautiful thing is, during my time of service and sales, of looking at other people's environments and other people's cultures, developing my own love of learning, I knew that that wasn't going to define me, and I knew I could start over. I think this is important. I worked a lot with first generation students, and I've worked a lot with college students, and I often hear that the students feel distressed sometimes because their grade didn't come in good, or they didn't get in the program they wanted. And it feels very ominous. It feels as if there's no way your plan is going to go forward. And I want to tell you, that might be so. Your plan might not go forward, but that's okay. That is okay. You always have the opportunity to reinvent yourself. There is very little, next to nothing, that can defeat you. There are a few things, but next to nothing. So in 2008, I went back to school as a 37-year-old mom of 6. I started out at community college, and in the United States, there's a program where high school students can go to community college and start their university at 16. And the community college that I went to, most of the students were 16. So there I was, a mother of 6, 37 years old, who had a beautiful house and a beautiful life, and now was living in a very small subsidized apartment, I think a 1-bedroom with all the kids. And I was sitting next to 16-year-old kids, but I kept going. And I went from there to the University of Washington, to the same campus that I visited as a child. And I got not just 1 degree there, I got 2. I did American Ethnic Studies and Comparative History of Ideas. Why I think this is important is that 10-year-old and 18-year-old Tracy would have looked very specifically at those who excelled, and I would have tried to emulate them. By the time I had gone through all of these experiences as a 37-year-old, what I knew is that life would come for you, so you had to be able to come back. So for me, I decided to pursue what was really interesting for me, what really motivated me, what encouraged me. When I woke up in the morning and didn't want to do a paper because I had 6 other kids wanting to have me help them with their homework, I needed to have something that would encourage me and move me forward. So I pursued what I was interested in. After that, I went to graduate program in library and information science at the University of Washington, and they offered me the opportunity to teach. So then not only was I going to school, earning my master's degree on campus, but I was also had the amazing opportunity for 2 years to teach over 1,000 students in American Ethnic Studies and encourage them also to pursue what they loved, what energized them, what they excelled at. What I know as a fact is that you could do something that you know in your plan will get you somewhere. But if you do something that your heart is very into, that is going to get you further. And if your plan doesn't work out, it will still be there to sustain you. So I graduated from the library and information science. During that time, I had 2 more children while I was getting my master's degree. I had met my husband now, who is absolutely wonderful. And we completed our family at 8. So in 2015, 44 years old, mother of 8, I graduated from the University of Washington in their Masters of Library and Information Science program. I thought undeniably that I was going to be a library and information science professional, but instead I started to get contracts. I started with several contracts that were information science based. It was all online. I had contract after contract. So I ended up starting my own company to consolidate all of them. And then in 2016, I took a contract at Microsoft. And you're not going to believe this. In my journey to pursue excellence, I actually ended up taking a contract on a team called Excellence. And that was in the Global Talent and Acquisition group within Microsoft. It was wonderful. It gave me a lot of exposure. And because I loved what I did, and because I loved sales, and I love service, and I love helping people, I was able to make a lot of connections while I was there. And in 2018, I became a full-time employee within the university recruiting group as an account manager. And it didn't stop there. I continued to make contacts. I continued to love what I do and to help others and to encourage others to continue in their journey. So last year, 2019, the Global Talent Acquisition's Excellence team had an opening, and I ended up back where I started at Microsoft, but this time as a full-time employee. And now I am the program manager in Excellence. I work on readiness, and we help our amazing Global Talent Acquisition team with their programs and their projects, and I help communicate those. I hopefully bring value, and it's amazing. Here's a picture, bring your children to work day. This was last year. We didn't have one this year that was in person, but these are some of my children. These are 4 of them. And so just to wrap up really quickly, I want you to know that as somebody who was able to lose everything, but start again, I had the opportunity to be very deliberate on where I worked and why I worked there. And I chose Microsoft because what I realized is, for me, Microsoft allows me to be authentic. It allows me to come to work the way I am, to be true to who I am. It allows me to empower people. It gives me that space and that independence to explore and to innovate, which has always been important to me. But most of all, Microsoft for me allows me to join with others, including all of you. You're amazing people that are also on their journeys of excellence. And so for me, those were the main reasons I chose Microsoft. It doesn't mean that that's where it'll land for you, not at all. Everybody has their own journey, as you saw. Mine is very different than other people's. And I'm very excited to connect with as many of you as possible and see where your journey ends. I want you to know, and I really mean this, that if we connect, I will be rooting for you. I'll be there behind the scenes, wanting the best for you and encouraging you. So I wanted to share this as I wrap it up. This was last year. We went to Disneyland, and I think this is most of us. One of my daughters is cut off right here. But this is my family. This is the sustaining awesomeness that has encouraged me and developed throughout my career. And I wanted to share that with you. And then, of course, because I love Disney, I had to end with a Coco quote: "One cannot deny who one is meant to be." And I believe that.
That's great, Tracy, and I think that this story of yours is very, very inspirational to a lot of people. So wonderful. I was also not expecting such a story. I thought that you will talk about your role at Microsoft, but it's great. Like, you started from nothing and you ended up something. So that's great.
Wonderful. I hope it's encouraging.
Yeah, it's encouraging.
Definitely
encouraging. It was. And I hope that the audience who is watching up till now will also feel motivated. And it's like, whatever you are right now, it's not what decides your future. You can change it anytime. So it's so it's on the basis of how you see your future. you can change it. Okay, so there is nothing is like difficult in life. There are hard times in life, but it's okay to go through those and like live the good times after that. So everyone in life, they experience hard times. It's okay, it's all right. But you as a person, you like it encouraged me as well. Your journey encouraged me as well, and that's really great. It was really motivational, and it's nice. It's a pleasure to have you, and that's great.
Wonderful. And of course, we can talk specifically about job roles, but I think if there's one thing that I wanted to leave everybody with is that you'll have plans. I don't want anybody to feel discouraged when those plans change or when your direction becomes different than what you thought you were headed towards, because at the end, it's still excellence. The journey is not quitting. It's the development of it. So
Yeah, that's great. That's some good words from you. And with this, we'll take a 5 minute break, Sundar.
Yes, we can. Okay.
Yeah,
So
just we'll take a 5 minute break and we'll be back. So if you guys have any questions related to like if you want to get into Microsoft, if you know more about Tracy, ask something about Microsoft, you can just leave it in the live chat and we'll take up the questions, and Tracy is here with us to answer those questions. So we'll come again in a 5 minute break. We'll see you in a 5 minute break. Okay.
okay. Bye bye everyone. And hey everyone, we are back from the break and we're about to start Q&A session. So hey Omkar.
Yeah. So everyone who are watching, please comment down your questions. Tracy is here with us. Please, if you have any questions, it's your chance to ask her right now, and she is there to answer. So if you have any questions, please drop your questions below. There are a lot of people who are new people who are joining right now. There is Mursal, Furqan. Hello everyone, Wagmare. Also Tracy, there is a person named Kshitij. He also told that your story is very inspiring. He commented that it's very inspiring, and he also commented that hard work, dedication is more important.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yep, I do agree. I think hard work is important to get you where you want to go. But I also think that authentic layer is what a lot of industries are looking at right now when they're looking at talent. They're looking at not only demonstrated hard work, but also what do you bring that is very unique to you? So that expression as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tracy, we have a question here. It's from Rohit, and it's like he's asking any suggestions for CSIT student after graduation, and what are the most important things to get a job in Microsoft? So what do you basically look for in candidates so that they can come join Microsoft? So just
That's a really great question. And what I'm going to share is my perspective based on my background in working at Microsoft as well as other companies. So I don't think that this is necessarily specific to Microsoft, but I think it's important for all companies. I think as an IT student, is there already internships that have been held by the student? If not, I would look to have internships or opportunities to demonstrate your actual technical ability. And that doesn't have to be in an internship. If you haven't gotten one, it's okay. There's a lot of ways to demonstrate that you have ability. There's a lot of platforms that you could go and show your coding expertise. I know that there's GitHub, there's other volunteer opportunities. So I think one of the most important things as a student is you will have demonstrated that you have that dedication and the ability to earn a degree. That's important. But you also have to show that you can translate what you've learned into actionable, valuable contribution. And so you either have to do that through an internship or through some other ways of demonstrating. I also think that for that IT student who we know is very technical, personally, I would suggest that you also demonstrate how you bring something that's creative, how you're able to not only build code, but how you're able to envision and innovate. So I would somehow demonstrate that you have some creativity and artistic prowess. That would be something I think would be helpful if that applies to you. But I think really presenting yourself as both dedicated and innovative is very key to being seen. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is. Definitely, Tracy. And can I ask personal question if I want?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was currently the pandemic time is going on. So what is your experience with online recruiting? Just few words about it.
Online recruiting, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, I'm asking about online recruiting.
Yeah, because we have a shift right now, right? Nobody would have envisioned this. Nobody would have planned for where we are today. And it's dramatically shifted how we do recruiting. But you all are part of a generation that I don't think it could have landed better. You're already very savvy as far as social media and online presence and establishing online presence. So what I would say is that you would have to go through and develop those connections. So when you look at online recruiting, I think you need to be able to stand out. You also need to be able to make connection. You're not going to be able to be in a room with somebody or in a lunch with somebody and be able to create that connection. So you have to translate that online. It's very important to have that presence when you're online. I would say that a very key part of it, if you're not familiar with doing online interviews, would be to have groups where you interview each other and you have mock interviews so that you become used to being online. Is that
okay? Yeah, it makes sense. Like it gives the answer to my question. I was like asking about the online recruiting, and you told everything that you know. So that's great. Sundar, over to you. There is a question
Yes.
in the live chat as well, and you also have a question. So do ask your questions as well.
Yes, I'll first ask the questions for the chat. Okay, so Vivek is asking that are there any opportunities for a mechanical or other branches after graduation to pursue his or her career in Microsoft, and what would be the right path?
Microsoft has a lot of opportunities, and the right path is connecting to the university recruiting team if you're right out of school. I say that, and a lot of people ignore it. They think, oh, but I don't want to, that's so large, I don't want to connect through there. That really is the best way to do it. On LinkedIn, there's a university recruiting group, and if you join that, Microsoft University Recruiting Group, you're able to connect not only with other candidates or people who are interested, but you have full access to all of the university recruiters and those who are leading the programs. There's a lot of opportunities, but you have to be connected into the teams that actually do the recruiting. And so exposure is very important. Don't neglect to do the very obvious, which is to connect, look on the global career site at the student opportunities and apply. Look at the different programs. Microsoft has a lot of different programs that aren't necessarily just a standard internship or a standard engineering role. Later this week, you're going to be able to hear from Linda Thackeray from the Garage program. That's an example. We have MadeApp. There are a lot of opportunities at Microsoft. So go to the global career site, go to the student key, and actually read through them, apply, but join in those teams such as the university recruiting group on LinkedIn. That would be my suggestion. Yes, Vivek, the opportunities are there. Make the connections.
Yes, I hope that answers his question. So a question from my side. So when you I saw your story, so you are doing so many multitasking stuff together. So I just got a thing, when I do multitasking, I get in the end, at the starting, I feel no pressure, but then in the end, it starts to bulk up in your mind, oh, okay, I got this, but you have so much little time. So how do you cope up with that?
Oh, that is such a great question, and it's a skill you can absolutely develop. It wasn't something that I was born with, but you're absolutely right. I am able to juggle a lot at once. What I do is I have a process and I write things down. I legitimately do. When we started to work from home instead of the office, I went to the hardware store and I bought very thin plexiglass, very large, and I tacked it to my walls in my office because I use that now when I write on the wall. So even though I have a lot of things in motion, I track them independently. And I do track them. I don't keep it all in my mind. It may look like it. If you interact with me on a professional level, or I'm running a program or a project for you, you may not see that half an hour before and half an hour after, and at the end of the day, I'm going back to my writing board and I'm using checklists. I'm in charge of change management for our team. And a large part of that is tracking, using checklists, developing that plan, and adhering to it. So when you multitask, make sure you're tracking each thing individually. And I would honestly suggest that you write it down, create a little checkbox, check each thing off.
That might actually work for me because I just forget a lot of things because so many things pile up, and in the end I just forget about things unless the guy who assigned my work to me calls me hey dude, this was the work.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kshitij was asking in the like, are there any programs specifically based on research?
Oh, definitely. And now, when we're talking about research, are we talking about on a PhD level? Or are we talking about research as an innovation? What exactly that would be the first thing, is to really hone in on what type of research we're talking about. There are a lot of PhD programs. Some of those specialty.
Tracy,
yes.
Kshitij is asking about PhD.
Okay, yes, there's absolutely PhD programs. And when you go to the global career site, you can filter based on those PhDs, and there's a lot of research opportunities. I absolutely love research. That's something that intrigued me. And in fact, when I was in AINR, or when I was in university recruiting, I represented the AI and research team. And so I absolutely know there's a lot of opportunities there. We also have PhD recruiters that specialize in that research and PhD space. A lot of the programs that Made Up, for instance, really innovates, and they maybe not research on the level that you're looking for, but it's definitely worth looking into. There are a lot of opportunities for PhD, absolutely. I mean, Microsoft is innovation, so we definitely have those opportunities.
That's great, Tracy. That's great. And I'll ask you one more question. It is like, what is your greatest accomplishment as a talent acquisition specialist?
That's a tricky one. That's almost not fair. And I'm not, because it's tricky and it's almost not fair, I'm not gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you two. I have one that's very practical. I was involved in the launch of the global career site in what faces all of you. So that was a great accomplishment. Being able to be a part of the team that presents opportunities to everybody, so that if Microsoft is the place they want to end, they're able to see our opportunities and apply. That was phenomenal. It was a very large project. It involved many stakeholders. That was an amazing accomplishment. Now, on a different level, I think the accomplishment that I'm most proud of is all of the internal networking that we do amongst each other. I think that we have mentors within Microsoft, and I've been able to be an unofficial mentor, and I've also benefited from mentoring. And that's something on a personal level that is very fulfilling, and I feel very accomplished to be a part of that at Microsoft.
Okay, so that's great. And Kshitij also asking once more. Kshitij asked that, what kind of research programs, please can you tell me some of these? Actually, he's asking for examples.
Okay. It's the research. I'm not completely versed in the specifics of the research programs, so I wouldn't want to do that because I wouldn't give it justice. But what I can tell you, and we can definitely feel free to connect with me offline, and I'll be able to present some of those links that I'm talking about, which can go into detail about some of the research programs that we have. There's a lot of detail on the global career site. So I would also suggest that you go to Microsoft Careers and look at the research. There's AI for Good. There's some of our amazing innovative work that's happening. And you can find all of that information in both job descriptions, but also you can find articles about what has happened and what people are doing. So we can connect offline, and I can share links with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And one more question. You told that you are into university recruiting. You are into that. So my question is, whenever an applicant applies for a job role, specific job role, so do you go over his profile physically, or do you have any application tracking system for that?
That's a great question, Omkar. And one of the things that I want to be very specific on is that my engagement at Microsoft and University Recruiting was an account manager. So I liaison between the business and University Recruiting. So I wasn't an actual recruiter who was doing what you are referring to. That being said, Microsoft has a very transparent process. If you go onto the website, Microsoft Careers, and see what to expect when you apply, you'll see the whole process detailed. It's very consistent. It's something that is done across the board. It's very transparent. What I can suggest is that when you do submit an application and you do submit your resume or you connect your LinkedIn profile to your global career site profile, that you make sure that it's up to date and that you make sure that the key parts of what you're doing and where you want to go, that you have those defined, because that is what the recruiter is going to be able to see. Everybody within Microsoft is going to see what you present them with. So they won't have the opportunity to get to know you unless you provide that information. So my recommendation there is that you make sure that your LinkedIn or your resume is up to date and it lists the things that you're most proud of that you want to highlight, because that's what will be seen.
That's great. And I think that a lot of people also stress on that point, that you must have a good LinkedIn profile, you must have good engagement connections. So that is really true. One must have that. One must have a good network. And networking benefits, like what is your experience about networking? Does it really help you in your specific career?
Oh, networking is so important. We can't underestimate networking. I think it's what is really wonderful, kind of pulling on your earlier question about being online. What is wonderful is that networking online allows people who are introverts and extroverts to come to the table of networking on a fairly, even space. Because if you're not somebody who likes to attend things in person, you still have that opportunity. There's a difference between connecting, and I think we had this discussion, Omkar. There's a difference between connecting on LinkedIn, where you hit the connect button and you say, "Oh, thank you for connecting me," and that's it. And then there's those who connect and they start a conversation, and that conversation isn't necessarily, "Oh, I've graduated and I want a job. Can you help me?" But instead, it's somebody who looks at a profile and says, "Oh, I noticed that you've done X, Y, and Z, and that's something that interests me. Would you be willing to share what you thought of it?" That's how authentic connections, I believe, in my opinion, are created, and those are very important. I have knowledge of different historical position information as far as historically what I've done and where it's landed me. I have the ability to share what I've done well and what I've not done well. I also know that if you ask me a question and it doesn't apply to me, I might know somebody who it does, because I've built my network. And so I'm able to say, you know what you're saying right now really seems to be aligned with this person, and let me introduce you, or feel free to reach out to them and let them know that I suggested you reach out to them. Those connections you can't make if you're not connected and you're not networking. Super important.
That's great, Tracy. And it was, I hope the answer, with the question which I had in my mind, it got cleared. So the last question for the Q&A is from Sarkanik, and he's asking, is there any chance they can contact us directly after we connect LinkedIn with career site?
So is there any chance that we can connect us directly after we connect?
Is there any chance they can contact us directly after we connect on LinkedIn with career site? So he's basically asking, after applying to the career site, the people who are looking over to our resume, to the application, do they really connect with us on LinkedIn back? That is the actual question.
Okay. It's independent because each recruiter, like, they wouldn't. I think I'm understanding let me make sure I'm understanding the question. If the question is, if you go on to the career site and apply, will somebody immediately connect with you? And I don't believe that that's something that will or won't happen based on our process. I think that if you apply, and let's say you apply for a program manager position, I think it would behoove you to research and find Microsoft employees who are program managers, who might be in the roles that you're interested in, and see if they might be open to connecting with you. But your strongest allies are going to be the university recruiting team that you can connect to on LinkedIn. They're going to be the ones that have the most information, the most accurate information, and they can also help you with the process. So I would suggest that you find positions, people in positions that you're interested in general, just in general, and reach out and learn more about what that position is. But don't forget to connect with the university recruiting team. It's very important.
That's great, Tracy. And with this, we would like to end today's day 2. And I want to thank you so much for coming here and talking about your journey, helping our audience. So it's really great what you have been doing, your journey, and I hope that you will do more well in your future careers, and I know that you will be successful one day. So I want to thank you for coming here, talking about your journey and taking that time from your busy schedule. So it is a weekday today and you have work, we all know. So it's great that you woke up at 5:30 and you came here with the same excitement, with the same motivation, and you talked to our audience, you interacted with our audience. So it's really great. And I want to personally thank you. And it's a pleasure to have you as our speaker in Industry Inspire series. So today's day 2 was awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, and one more thing, the people who are watching the session right now, Tracy's LinkedIn is in the description box below, so do connect with her, do ask questions. He's happy to answer all the questions of yours. So it's really great, and a lot of people are commenting. Neeraj is commenting, thank you ma'am, it's really inspiring. Tanmay, an inspiring session. Kshitij, great session. Sakshi, thank you ma'am. So a lot of people are thanking you, and you deserve that basically, because you had a lot of struggles and now you are at such position, and it really inspires us as well to do more in life. So it is kind of a motivational, and the Q&A session was also well. You answered all the questions asked by the audience. So it's really great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And just to update about tomorrow's session, and tomorrow we have Martina with us, and she's going to talk about the 101 ways to become a partner technology strategist. So tomorrow the session will be at 6 p.m. IST same. So please do join tomorrow as well with the same excitement, with the same motivation, and with a motivation to learn something. And she is right now partner technology strategist at Microsoft Germany. She also has 3 years of experience. So do join tomorrow as well at the same time, and with another speaker who is from Microsoft. So Sundar, would you like to say some words, or Tracy, some last words of motivation? Some last words you want to say, Tracy?
Just keep going. I think you're all going to do wonderful because you have an interest and you're dialing in, you're staying connected right now. So keep going. Thank you.
Yes, and I hope, and I think that many people would send a LinkedIn. You will get a lot of LinkedIn connections today.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy, for joining. Thanks everyone for joining.
Ma'am. Thank you, Tracy.
Bye.
And don't forget to like this video. And okay, we'll meet you tomorrow at the same time. So bye everyone.
Bye everyone.